Here's my draw for the 2021 New Jersey Extreme Mustang Makeover. She is a 4-year-old bay mare from Eagle HMA in Nevada. Here she is getting ready to load onto the trailer. Since she's unhandled, they push her down a series of chutes that eventually leads up to the gateway of the trailer. And they just push her on up, and she gets on pretty easily here. And this is how she travels on her way back to Maine. We have about a 12-hour drive ahead of us, and she did settle down a bit once we got driving. Here she is back at the farm. We unloaded her at about 4 a.m. this morning. So unfortunately, I didn't get any videos of her unloading off the trailer, but everything went really smooth. And here's my first time going into the pen with her. As you can see, she's pretty unsettled with me being in her space there. She did not like me being outside of her pen at first, so I waited until she calmed down a bit before I stepped inside. Once she started to settle a bit, I decided to take a step closer. And unfortunately, she did not feel comfortable with me being in her space there, and she bolted. We continued to work on this a bit, waiting for her to settle with me being just a step closer to her. And after a few hours, she started to let me get close to her. However, she still did not like me reaching out towards her. Here I decided to use a stick as an extension of my arm to get her used to something touching her while still keeping a distance. She was much less guarded of her face than she was her body, so I decided to approach her from the front and just reach out to her And at first she was still pretty explosive about this, but after some time she started to come around to it, and here you can see by the end of that session she let me rub her face all over with the stick. Here I am working with her on day 2. As you can see, she's gotten much more comfortable with me walking up to her and reaching my hand up to touch her. However, she still would not let me actually make contact with her. Since we had been working on this for a little while now, I felt comfortable to add a little bit more pressure when she wanted to walk away. And here you can see she even came back to me instead of bolting off like she used to do. I decided to add the pressure there, and since she stayed relaxed, I backed off and took that pressure away. And here we are on day 3. Once she realized that I wasn't going to hurt her, she started to come around pretty quickly and was totally comfortable with me rubbing her neck and even around her body. And here we are at the end of day 3. She had settled down quite a bit and was comfortable with me approaching both sides of her and rubbing her all over. So I finally decided it was time to remove her neck tag. And from this point on, she was no longer just a number. Previously known as number 6122 was now Hazel. Unfortunately, I was not able to get a lot of recording done in the first session of day 4. But as you can see, I was able to get a halter on her, and that went extremely well. I desensitized her to the halter and the rope first by rubbing it all over her shoulder, which she was most comfortable with, and then bringing it up her neck and slowly rubbing it over her nose. This led up to an extremely successful first haltering. Also, in the first session this morning, I was able to start working on leading. You can see here she had a general understanding that when I pull, she should give to the pressure. It took her a minute, but once she came in, I released the pressure. Since this wasn't her first time doing this, I was able to go a little bit faster and add a little more pressure. In this clip here, you can see she decided she did not want me to touch her face anymore. So I worked with it for a couple minutes and kept the pressure on. And after a minute, she did eventually settle down and let me rub her face here. Here's a clip of her after probably an hour of leading work. We're working on walking and then stopping and staying with me. And she caught on to this very quickly. And here I started working on picking up her front feet. This wasn't her first time picking up her front feet. However, it was probably within the first 5 times. So I kept on picking them up and putting them down until she got more comfortable with this. And here is her first time outside of her round pen with me. She handled the walk from her round pen to the riding arena very well. Once in the riding arena, we worked on walking and stopping and just keeping her right there with me. Overall, I was very impressed with her first time being outside of her pen. She has already made such big progress in just the 4 days she's been here. Here is Hazel's first time ever having a full brush down. I was able to braid her mane before, but this is my first time actually brushing her body. This is also the first time that she felt comfortable to eat with me standing near her. This is her first ever introduction to a saddle pad. She's handled it extremely well. When I first brought it in, she was just kind of snorting at it and backed away a few steps. But after just a couple minutes, she came up to it and started to let me rub it all over her body. I wanted to make sure that she was not going to be scared of it when I put it on her, so I took some time to just throw it around. It was a little windy out that day, and I didn't want it to blow off of her and scare her. And that preparation led to an extremely successful first time wearing a saddle pad. I think it's extremely important at the stage to make sure your Mustang is extra prepared for everything you throw at them so that you don't give them any extra reason to be nervous of you. In this clip here, I was getting her ready for her first time ever being sat on. Before recording, I had already worked on going up and down the matting block and moving it next to her side and letting her sniff and see it. I worked on jumping off the matting block a few times so that it wasn't a surprise to her. She had also worn a saddle a couple times and lunged out with it. She did extremely well taking to the saddle, and it was a very drama-free process for her. You can see I've been rubbing all over her, tapping her sides, and now I've been throwing my leg over her back just to take everything one step at a time so that I could set her up for success. You can see I had to reset her a few times. There is a few people at the barn and horses and people walking up and down the driveway. So just some new things for her to look at. She handled everything really well though. She never got explosive and just needed a quick reset each time. And here's her first time with someone ever on her back. As you can see, she's handled it extremely well. I put a lot of preparation into this so that I knew that she'd be set up for success. And that was Hazel's first week out of the wild. I'm so proud of her training, and she has really changed so much since being here. I can't wait to see how much she continues to progress.